I am recording as well. Hey, Kieran, how are you, man?
Hey, Victor, I'm going great.
Fantastic. Welcome to EV Chat. This is our first podcast. Kieran, my co-host and partner, is joining me here. You probably have seen him in a couple of videos. I am the guy that yells behind the background. And we decided to start doing this podcast because there's... What am I wearing? My glove, sorry. I was illustrating. Let's just start by introducing ourselves and what do we do and what's our deal. And for those, probably not a lot of people know that Kieran here is actually an insider in the business. You work for a charging company here in Australia. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Kieran?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer for a charging company in Australia, and I'm also, just a passionate EV enthusiast. I have a electric car that I am super excited about. I've been following EVs for a long time, and it's been a dream to have a job in an EV charging company so I can make an impact to EV charging in Australia because, as we know, it's not the best. So,
yeah. Absolutely. And a couple of things we're going to talk about it. We both own Teslas. I am not a particularly Tesla enthusiast or apologist, although I have two. Take that with a grain of salt. No, because there's a lot of people that are incredibly passionate about Teslas and, Elon Musk can do no wrong. That is not my case in any way, shape or form. I have my complaints about the cars in many aspects. But I think we both share this passion for what looks to be like the new technology or where the world is shaping to go, if that's a right way of phrasing it. I don't know. Anyway.
Like where EVs are going, what they're doing, the future of cars, the future of transport, the future of energy, all of that stuff's really exciting.
It is incredibly exciting. So let's just start because we have some articles and I have a story that I want to talk about by the end because I had a conversation with a petrol head on the weekend, a close friend of mine. And
was it a juicy one?
It was, look, I am beyond the years of me speaking of fights with people, and this is not, although I'm passionate and animated, I don't get in arguments with people anymore. And I was not going to get in an argument with this person, but I realized that most of the complaints that people have about these electric cars come from people that have never driven it or really they don't understand the technology. So we'll go to that at the end because I want to see the news because there's some really good news to talk about. So take it away, Kieran.
So we have the article here. It's from The Driven and this article is by Daniel Bleakley from today. So actually, no, yesterday. So fresh news.
Fresh news.
We have the actual price, the MG4 pricing is now out.
Ooh.
Lowest cost EV. I wonder what it is. I haven't actually seen it.
You haven't seen it because you made a video about the leaked price, which, if I remember correctly, was $46,900 and something dollars, or something in that.
Something like that. But there was another car that was cheaper, but it may not be released. So I guess I want to see. Let's see.
Okay.
So what's the pricing?
Okay, so take it away.
All right. So we have the pricing of the MG4. There's three models. So in the video that I posted before this, I only announced the price that was leaked of the Essence. So the 64 kilowatt Essence version. But what's interesting here is that the Excite version, which is cheaper, so it's $44,990, and that's why. Range. Yeah, it has a longer range. Okay. So it's a cheaper car with longer range. That's kind of weird, I guess.
Have they announced anything about the battery chemistry? Because here's the deal that I have, and it's a conversation again about that I had with the guy from Tesla. Because Tesla has released everything as royalty free. If you want to build a Tesla, you can build a Tesla right now. You can download the thing and you can build an exact same model. But they haven't released the R&D about the chemistry development in battery. So that is one of the main forces that is stopping, a lot of people building these cars is because they don't have these, either the capability of building them or even the technology or the know-how to build these kind of technologies that these kind of batteries that Tesla has in the cars. So what are they
But
doing
also the
these
battery
days?
management system as well. Like that's a huge thing that people don't necessarily consider.
So what do you mean with the battery management? Like,
well, because if you put some batteries in and you just charge them and discharge them, sure, you'll be able to use them, but the batteries will degrade a lot quicker because they're not being managed well and they're not being balanced between all the different cells. And there's a lot of smarts that goes into how the batteries are charged and discharged in a car.
And that is
even like cooling as well, like cooling and heating them, getting the right temperature and the speed in which charging happens and doesn't happen. So yeah,
and that is at a software level.
It's hard. Well, I think a lot of the battery management stuff is hardware, but it does also have software controlling it too. So there's a battery management module that sits in between the charger and the batteries, and it knows all about all the different batteries and what level they're at and can do all sorts of different things. So I think you would have experienced that before. When you charge up to 100%, sometimes it'll go into calibrating mode. And so that calibrating mode is when it's doing its leveling. So,
well, all of that, I'm rewinding back to what we're talking about.
Sorry, I got distracted, right?
Well, no, especially because these ranges sound incredibly good. And I don't know if they have fantastic battery chemistry or battery management or whatever you want to call it. But this sounds literally too good to be true. Is it because the car is very light? Or is it just...
Yeah, it's because, but it's also WLTP range. So if you look at the WLTP range of a Model Y rear-wheel drive, what is that? Yeah, so a rear wheel, like the standard range Model Y, WLTP is 455. But I know from real world experience, the actual real world range you get from a Tesla sits at around 400 Ks. Depends how you're driving. Like if you're doing highway driving, it's going to be a little bit lower. If you're doing a lot of city stuff, it might be a bit higher. But yeah, so what this is going to equate to is around the similar to a Model Y. So that's actually pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Okay, first of all, do you know what WLTP stands for?
Yeah, I've looked it up. So WLTP is the Worldwide Harmonized Light Vehicles Test Procedure.
You didn't know that, Kieran? How dare you?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I had to look it up.
Okay,
but yeah, it's it's like a standard for measuring like a bunch of different things. So it measures the pollutants, the CO2 emissions, the fuel consumption of a car. So traditional cars, hybrid cars, as well as electric cars. So it's standardized measure that is used across all sorts of vehicles. There's another standard called NEDC, which is actually pretty bad. It's a bad way of measuring it, and most people have said like the acronym for NEDC is not even damn close. So most people ignore the NEDC. WLTP is more accurate, but it's not like it doesn't equate to a real world range.
Fair enough. So hold on a second, because the other thing that we need to discuss about this is the WLTP is very interesting. But what about the 64 kilowatt hour battery? Especially equating, because I'm guessing apples to apples, this would be in a Model 3 range, although it's $20,000 cheaper. Is that battery, is it the same size as a Model 3?
A Model 3 battery, I think, is very, very similar. Just a second. Penny battery as well, battery size. Okay, so a Model 3, the LFP battery, so that's the battery for the standard range Model 3s in Australia, is 55 kilowatts.
Well,
so it's actually 10 kilowatts smaller.
There it is. That's exactly what we're talking about. So that means that it would charge faster then, because it's a smaller battery to charge, so somehow they manage more range with a smaller battery. That's interesting. That is something.
Yes.
That's not nothing.
Well, that's the thing. Like the Teslas are generally, there are exceptions, but for most of the electric cars, they are the most efficient. If you look at the pure efficiency numbers, they're the most efficient, and that's why they're leading so much.
And also,
but this is good though. Very, very good.
But so just compared to the Model 3, that would mean that it would be faster to charge and also cheaper, because you would be able to go a longer range with a Tesla without, And I know that this is cents on the dollar at the end of the day, but still, you know.
Well, 10 kilowatts, if you go normal electricity prices, say 25, 30 cents, so 30 cents.
No, more like 50, 60 these days.
Yeah, but if you have cheap electricity at 35 cents and 10 kilowatts difference, that's, $3.50.
Okay.
So every time you charge for the exact same range, it's going to cost you an extra $3.50 with an MG4.
Let's say $5 just to
just to make it easy.
Just to make it easier. Let's say $5. Well, again, this still is really, really good, especially because there's been some cars. There's been some cars outside. Did you see the Hummer? The Hummer that had like this kind of range, but it has like 145 kilowatt hour battery or something stupid, like ridiculous.
It is stupid. It's crazy. And then just to think it's carrying all that weight around as well. So it's even more inefficient. And I think that's the thing, like with the more efficient Tesla, it's like a sweet spot, the right range that's needed and for the right battery size. Because it is a trade-off. How much battery? You could chuck in heaps of battery and have huge range, but then it would also be less efficient.
So here, the thing that we need to discuss as well is the fact that this is without on-road costs. Now, on-road costs can change state to state and a bunch of things, but it's roughly around $6,000 to $10,000 extra, roughly. And I'm giving a massive guesstimate because it changes, obviously. But still not a cheap car, not a particularly cheap car. Like if you compare this to a regular sedan, like a Corolla or something like that, just a regular one, not a luxury one or anything like that, you would be, closer to the 30 grand, 30 something, maybe even 20 something. That's still double. So not quite yet there. Even.
Yeah, there is that. I guess the thing you got to remember, and I go on about this with everyone talking about electric cars, is the total cost of ownership. So over 10 years, which is a normal amount of time somebody might own a car, you're going to be paying about half compared to petrol for your fueling it.
Yeah,
but also maintenance. Maintenance is huge.
Look, you're preaching to the choir. I get it because I get it and I like it and all of that is good and fine. But there's also some other expenses that a lot of people, and this is what I was saying, that I'm not an apologist, because there is some other expenses that are like the insurance is twice, if not 3, even 4 times the price of a regular car.
True.
And then if something breaks,
that's not great. Insurance is a cost which is not great. But I think over time that should go down, especially as more EVs hit the market and they become seen. They've got a bunch of insurance companies have the data to see that they're safer. Well, but then the price will go down.
And this is specifically about the Tesla, but the Tesla are very expensive cars to repair. And we all know that. If you get a puncture wheel, that is going to be costly. Or even, for example, right now, I'm having an issue, and it's still under warranty, so, the mobile service will come and all of that, but it's a simple issue with one of the headlights. Now, in a normal car, I would go and I would buy a $2, little light bulb, and that would be enough to fix it. But in this case, although it's being free right now because it's under warranty, which is great, 7 years, even with that, they were quoting $2,600. So if you're out of warranty, you would be in a world of hurt. So I'm just trying to to do justice to
definitely,
the truth and bring that up. So
tires can be another thing as well, because they're with the cars being heavier, is that you do compared to a smaller car, you potentially go through tires quicker, but most people in Australia these days drive huge big SUVs,
yes, absolutely.
So they're pretty heavy anyway.
I mean, like I said, you're preaching to the choir. I get that, and I was spending $2,000 a year in just in servicing alone, without the petrol, and even without the petrol prices being what they are right now. So all of that is good and fine, but I still do strongly believe that this should be at least $10,000 cheaper for this to get mass acceptance in people. To say we're ready to go there.
Yeah. Well, you do have to keep in mind, though, in most states there is EV incentives. So there's another video on our channel about that too.
Yes, go watch it. It's a good one.
Yeah. Most of it's $3,000. So for a lot of states, it's a $3,000 rebate. And this would apply for most of them because of its price. It's underneath the most of the thresholds. In Queensland, they've doubled it. So it's now $6,000 for their rebate. So yeah, Queenslanders that want an MG4 could be pretty exciting.
Yeah. And plus what you were mentioning. So I mean, it's looking really good. You mentioned in your video that this one is already out in Great Britain and people are loving it and the reviews are in and it's all rainbows and sunshines. Is there anything bad about it? Like, is there something people should notice about this car?
Yeah, so there is a couple of things that I'm not a huge fan of with the MG4. I did actually get to see it fully charged in Australia when they sort of announced it and released it. Not a huge fan of the rear of the car, like the boot. It looks weird. Personal opinion, I'm not a huge fan. Do you like it?
Well, I don't like how it looks, but how can I say it? I don't think that my opinion about how a car looks is particularly relevant. To be honest, look, I am a graphic designer and I have very strong opinions about how things look. But for me, this car it's incredibly more relevant about what it represents than how it looks. Would I prefer it to look better so more people would buy it? Absolutely. It looks like an 2005 Corolla to me. That's exactly how it looks like.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think it looking good is one of the main reasons why people would buy it. The same, which is completely the opposite from Teslas. I reckon one of the main reasons why people started buying the Model 3 is because it looks so darn sexy, which it should, because of the price. Yeah. But regardless of that, I am not a huge fan of how it looks, but I don't think it matters because I don't think my opinion is particularly relevant, when it comes down to cars.
There's other things that are not that great about the MG4, and I think there are also things that don't necessarily matter. Depends who you are, like what kind of car you're looking for, and if this matters to you. But one of the features that I love that it doesn't have is one pedal driving. So it's more like a traditional car where you accelerate.
That's a big one. I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me interrupt you because that has to do with the story that I was going to tell in the end. Tell me more about this because I haven't heard anyone mentioning that before. That's juicy. So it doesn't have regenerative charging with the pedal?
Yeah, it doesn't have regen charging with the pedals, so it's just like a normal car, and you then have to go accelerate, brake, which is very much just like the MG ZS EV that I got to test drive it fully charged. Yeah, so not that great. The other thing is that when you go to because it doesn't have one pedal driving, it doesn't also have auto hold. So when you let go of the accelerator, the car is just going to keep creeping forward like a normal automatic car would be. So if you put it into drive, it'll keep just moving and you've got to put the brake on to stop it. Whereas I've gotten used to an electric car that you can just let go of the accelerator and the car just sits there, even on a hill.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, that's great. The other thing is I looked up some reports from the reviews in the UK, and a lot of them are complaining about how bright the screen is, especially at nighttime. So that's maybe something to consider or look at if you did a test drive.
Well, I want to go about the regen braking because that is one of the things that I reckon is one of the main driving features for an electric car. Which again, at the end we'll talk about the story, but that because I haven't heard this anywhere else, that would make me not want to buy it, especially coming from a person that already drives an electric car. I don't know how big that would be for someone that has never driven an electric car. Maybe they won't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe that, it won't be a thing. But for me, that I'm coming from an electric car and I was thinking, well, maybe I could buy this one as a second because I have two Teslas that are pricey. I would rather sell a second one and maybe get a different electric car, maybe, because I'm not going back to fuel. Just not. But what you just told me, it's enough for me to not even consider it at all. Because I can't go back to that. It's the regen braking is too good. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, a bit of a correction. It does have regen braking, but it doesn't have one pedal driving. So it won't come to a complete stop if you let go, but it does have 4 regen braking modes, including an adaptive mode. I don't know what adaptive mode means, but it has 4. So I guess you can go sort of weak and then 4 levels of strong. But yeah, it will still come to a complete stop.
That's an interesting one. I wonder, because you haven't driven it, you just saw it, right? I wonder how.
No, but I've driven
works.
I've driven the ZS E.V., which is another MG car, and I would expect they would be similar. Mm-hmm. That one did also have regen, but not one pedal driving. And yeah, I don't know. It was unusual. Regen is great, especially for city driving. And I think this sort of car would be used a lot for city driving. So I think it's a little bit of a miss.
Oh, but hold on. No. So how does it work? Because the regen means that, the magnets in the motor lock, and that energy that gets from slowing down the motor goes back into the battery. I mean, I know that I'm massively oversimplifying. You are the, software engineer, not me. but yeah. That's how I understand it. The because it works with magnets. It obviously doesn't have, I'll make the point. I know most people would know this, but it doesn't have an internal combustion. It doesn't have fuel. It doesn't have pistons. It doesn't have any of those things that a regular car would have. It just has an electric motor that works with magnets that push things rotating on a single way depending on the charge. Yeah. Again, massively simplifying. So the way that it works is when you let go, the motor, the magnets lock and they slow down the car, producing energy and getting that back. How does that work?
Just like an inverter in a normal car.
That's exactly right. But how does that work if you are locking the wheels and not slowing down the motor? That's what I want to know.
So it does actually do it. So it does do regen, just like you said. But when it gets to a certain speed, so when it gets to say 10 kilometers an hour, it stops regenning. And it will continue to go at a certain slow speed, which is called creep mode in a Tesla. Mm-hmm. So it'll just keep moving, and it will act like a petrol car manual, where if you let go of the brake, it'll move a little bit. So it'll be that slow speed that'll keep going, but it means that you still will have to let go of the accelerator. The car will slow down a little bit more with regen, and then you have to then apply the brakes.
All right. I reckon when we get to the end and I tell this story, I reckon we're going to touch on this point because it's very interesting to me. What about, do we know anything about, again, going back to the battery chemistry, one of the things about Tesla is there's reports of these Teslas that are literally almost 15 years old now, and they still, charge up to 75% and how good it is. And even in high temperatures, yada, 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 yada. There's all these things about it, all these reports. Do we know anything about the battery in this car in particular?
From the UK, the reports there, it looks like it's an LFP battery as well, which is the same as what the standard range Teslas do as well.
But is it the same brand, the same everything, or is just
no? It wouldn't be the same brand. I'd have to look it all up, but it's.
No, that's all right. We don't have to. I'm just saying because Tesla was working before they started doing their own batteries. They were working with Panasonic, I believe, or Samsung or Panasonic. One of them was actually building the batteries.
They still are.
They still are. All right. So
for some of them, they contract out some of their battery to them. They also, their CATL, which is a Chinese company, they do some battery stuff too with.
All right. Well, there it is. There's all the information. I reckon it's very, 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 very exciting. Would you get one as a second car?
I don't know. It's not for a second car. I don't quite think the price is right. The cheapest one at $44,990 is almost there, but if it can just be a little bit cheaper, for me, I'm waiting to see if BYD comes out with a cheaper car, not the BYD Dolphin. And then there's the Great Wall Motors Aura, which could also be cheaper than this too. So for me, as a second car, I'm not no hurry or rush, so I'm going to wait. But yeah, for some people, it could be a great first car.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, I was skipping up ahead, but you mentioned that you wanted to have a chat about the difference in the trim versions of what was.
Yeah, I guess this is the sort of the thing about more traditional cars is you've got this sort of Excite and then Essence, and so the difference between the Excite and the Essence is that the Essence comes with these extra features like the MG Pilot Advanced Driver Assistance, blind spot detection, lane change assist, rear traffic and door opening warning. So all of these extra features you've got to pay more for and have less range, which is kind of a bit silly. But yeah, if those matters to you, then go for that version. But I think a lot of people are probably going to buy the cheaper one without those features.
Especially because I am guessing, and this is one of the things that really bothers me. that really bothered me about Tesla is the fact that they lock stuff, they software lock stuff, which I think is one of the dumbest and one of the nastiest things you can do. If you are paying for the hardware, then you are paying for the hardware. It's already there. And it sounds like that's what they are doing here, because I'm guessing they're not going to put a different computer inside the car. They're all going to be the same. And then they're just going to software lock some stuff.
Yeah, but I find though traditional car makers are scummy with that anyway. Like I've got an example with my Corolla. The Corolla that we still own actually you can buy the model, the base model, and if you at the dealer when you buy a new one, they're like, "Oh, do you want cruise control?" Okay, it's going to be $3,000 to get cruise control. But then what you can do is you can go on eBay and buy a $5 little like cruise control lever, get it installed in your car, and it just magically has cruise control. So it's already there, but they're locking it behind a different model. The thing about Tesla is that they're doing it through software and you can like press a button to buy it. But with the traditional car, they're being more scummy about it. So I don't know. It's been happening for ages.
I know it has. Absolutely. No, and there's worst examples about that. Volkswagen is very famous in the Golf. That at some point they released like this software thing that could give you, I don't know how many horsepower extra. Like, oh, you pay $5,000, you come here, we press a button in our computer, and you get whatever horsepower extra. It's like, mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not something with Tesla, but in general, that irks me when it happens. Anywhere, especially if you already bought the hardware. But that's sadly where the world is moving, you know, people trying to get more money out of a monthly.
Yeah, well, I've got another article here from Mercedes that are doing that as well. We could talk about that later.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just a great segue to talk about that now.
Let's do it now then. Off you go.
So like in terms of like those extra fees, is that Mercedes wants to charge a $1,200 subscription to unlock better performance in their EVs. What do you think about that?
Well, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, especially, but here's the thing.
It's an annual fee as well. Every single year you want that performance, you're going to have to pay another $1,000. Whereas with Tesla, it's a one-off fee to get higher performance. It's like one-off, pay it, you've got it. This is an annual subscription.
But I mean, at least the performance model has a twin motor. Like in Tesla, there's like a hardware thing between the like the actually juicy stuff. But this is just and you know what's really funny? That I think most of this stuff is gonna go back and bite them in the ass. Like there's no way anyone is happy about this. No one is gonna say, "Oh, what a great feature! Thank you very much." Like there's no consumer that would be happy about this. And I know that people buy Mercedes-Benz for many different reasons. And one of them is not to save money, for sure. But still, you know, that feeling of, oh, they are taking advantage is a little bit nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought I mentioned that this article is from Forbes and is written by Alistair Charlton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, they want to, it's just a $1,200 plan for their SUVs. They have an EQE and EQS. Those are the main Mercedes electric cars. But it's performance as well. Like it's there. No. The car can do this.
Look, the only way that I could justify this is if you would also open it to other people to tinker with it. Like, you know what? Here's the thing. You can tinker with it. It's fine. But if you break it, it's your fault. It's out of warranty. But if you come to us, we'll do it properly. And I'm guessing 95% of the people that own a Mercedes would go and get it from them. But actually locking something... Look, the perfect example is Tesla here in Australia. I don't know if it happens also in America or not. But here in Australia, the previous one, not mine, and I think not yours, but they had the rear seat heaters locked on their paywall of $500.
Yeah. Well, because they had the same manufacturing technique where they just put heating in every single seat, even though it was disabled for standard range.
Which is one of the dumbest things. Mine didn't come with that. Mine has the heat seating in the back seats. But that is the scummiest, buoyest crap that I've heard. Like, Why? Why? It's just trying to squeeze $500 more from someone that already paid for the service. Like, you already paid for the motor. For the motor to heat it up. You already paid for the seat. You already paid for everything. And you're saying, oh, well, if you don't give me $500, you cannot have it. Seems incredibly anti-consumer in my personal point of view.
Yeah, to defend them, I guess it's a manufacturing thing of like it's actually cheaper for them to put it in all cars than to take it out of the car. So I guess that'd be a reason.
That is great, but that still doesn't mean, well, that's fantastic. I still paid for it. You sold me a car that has the feature. You don't get
True.
So imagine that
I was grasping at straws there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, for me, that in general, whoever you are, Mercedes, Tesla, whoever that has, or like we said, a Volkswagen, it has no apology. That is one of the scummiest things.
The only reason I can think of, like a legitimate reason, could be by increasing the performance, it reduces the life of the motors or the battery somehow, which means that their warranty is somehow less. And by charging that monthly fee or their yearly fee, they can cover themselves in case they have earlier warranties. Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
There's still better ways to go on around with it, but yes, okay, let's go with that one. Let's. But I guess that is a thing, and that is something they should be considering. But $1,200 annual
but that's the key thing. There is no hardware changed at all. It is purely software.
Maximum output. Well, that would also mean that you would spend more battery, wouldn't you? Like, you would be going over your battery faster if you're getting more kilowatts per hour of.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you'd use more. Of course, the range would go down because you're doing that. But the same in any electric car. If you floor it all the time, it's just that if there's a brick under your accelerator to stop you accelerating too fast, like that's kind of what this is.
Yes,
and you've got to pay.
I love it.
You've got to pay Mercedes $1,000 to take that brick out
for a year. And then they will come like, these little Mercedes elves would come into your house at night and they will put the brake on the accelerator again.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So I got another article. Do you want to go with that?
Give it. Show me.
Yeah, well, I guess talking about pricing, there's even more pricing.
Okay, give me more pricing.
So this is exciting. This is a car that I've been wanting to come to Australia for ages now. This is also on the Driven. This was today by Riz Akhtar. I can't pronounce that very well, that last name. But the Mache-E, Ford Mache-E pricing has been released for Australia. Of course, this is a more expensive car than the MG4, but it is at $79,990 before on roads for their entry-level version. And, of course, they've got a GT version and a premium version, $92,000 and $108,000. So not a cheap car, but from all reports in America, it's a great car.
Well, but it's not beyond the realm of, that's Model Y prices at the end of the day. And the fact that it's a luxury, muscle, ridiculously impressive car, it's not horrible. Like, look, I need to say this. I am a car enthusiast. I love cars. I love the engineering behind them, even the internal combustion stuff. I absolutely love them. And that would have to do with the conversation we're going to have in a second. But my favorite car, the car that I've always dreamed that is not a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, is a Nissan GTR. And a Nissan GTR is like $120,000 or $130,000 Australian. They go up to 200 and something, yes. But I remember looking at that price and saying, oh, that's not impossible. This, which is supposed to be one of the nicest, muscliest, amazing luxury cars out there, $79,000 is the price. Is the price of a Model Y? I don't think it's abhorrent. I think it's.
Oh, but that's before on road, so it's more expensive than a Model Y.
But Model Y is like that, isn't it? Like 74 before on roads.
Well, it's 79 including on road, so it's 70, 74ish, something like that.
So comparable. That's what I'm saying.
It's comparable. Yeah.
Comparable.
And I think though there's a lot of people out there that have brand loyalty to Ford, and Ford doesn't have all of that Tesla baggage, like all of the Elon Musk stuff and they don't have the hate or the love and the that type of community. There's definitely a lot of car people that have been like that have been driving Fords their whole life that might be like, oh, okay, there's a Ford now. I might consider getting an EV just because this car now exists.
Well, they're very famous. If someone listens to this podcast outside of Australia, and Australia is very, very famous, the whole beef between Commodores and Falcons, which were like the two main muscle cars of Australia, and you would drive one or drive the other, and you would have a preference.
Yeah.
Like Eric Bana prefers the Falcon, and is really famous. And
Holden. Holden for me.
Holden Commodore. So it was Ford or Holden, but the main thing was, to my understanding from someone coming from Mexico, the main thing was Falcon versus Commodore. And you would go into the pub in the 2000s before both of those left the market, and people would be arguing about Falcon versus Commodore over and over and over. So people are very passionate about the Fords, and people are very passionate about the Falcons. So I think this would most certainly have, a place in the hearts of Australians.
Yeah, and the Mustang as well. The Mustang has a big brand name too. There's a lot of Mustangs on the road. People love them. Yeah. The only thing about this is that it is more of an SUV type car as well. Like it is not like when I think of a Mustang, I think of a sedan that's got the way that it looks and the logo on the front and the back and the GT symbol if it's a GT. But whereas this is an SUV. So I don't know.
Do you think they just slap the sticker of Mustang to sell it more? Like they said, this is a Mustang, so. Abraca Mustang, and all of a sudden,
Abraca Mustang. I love that. That's great. Yeah, I think so. It's trying to get that put that name of performance in there and trying to sell more. The concern I think for enthusiasts is it's like, well, does it degrade the Mustang brand by having an EV that's also an SUV? But I don't know.
I believe that they should have waited for the electric Mustang, and that should have been the first one. And I know that it would have been pricier and whatever, but that would have been a kicker. If Ford would have released a Mach-E, but regular non-SUV, and it would have been a massive, a massive deal to have like a proper muscle car, a Corvette, or we already have Porsches, I know that, and we already have like some F1s and really, really expensive supercars, but just an American muscle car branded, with the big ones would have been huge. And definitely. I think it's a missed opportunity.
Very popular in Australia, I think.
Yeah. So here's the deal. This is just to finish it up. And this is the story about this petrolhead that I was talking to. Dear friend of mine, by the way. And again, I was not going to start an argument with him. But
you sure?
I'm sure. Long story short, we're talking about how I own a Tesla, 2 now. And I was talking to another friend. There's 3 of us, and this other friend is actually the head of a Toyota dealership, one of the biggest ones here in South Australia. I won't name names because I don't know if it's a big deal. Anyway, so the 3 of us having a conversation, and you're talking about electric cars, yada, yada, yada. And this guy starts, you can see that I'm ruffling his feathers. He's not particularly happy about that. His wife is from Texas, and he was going on how he wanted to buy a V8 and, and stuff. And I started talking to him, and I said, look, that's all very good and great. I am a car enthusiast. I love engineering. Like I said, I love pistons. I love everything. The fact that there's a tiny little explosions several times per second in every single bit, that is actually what drives the car forward. And the fact that we have actually come to a point where we can standardize the quality of a single motor doing that over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cars around the world, is nothing but, a miracle to me. But what I like the most about cars is driving them. And he didn't know about regenerative braking, about one pedal braking, and what that means to the car. So this is the story behind of how I drive. When I used to be still in Mexico, I used to drive a Nissan, and it was a speedy car. And I taught myself how to change gears without a clutch, which you can do if you know your car well enough. And I would start using engine braking, because I hate locking the wheels when I'm turning a corner. And that's the way that I was driving from now on. I would just drive constantly with the clutch or with the gear by down gearing and up gearing and things like that. Because I love the experience of, feeling that control of the car. And to a point where one of the cars that I really liked, which was the Nissan Juke, I never wanted to buy it because they didn't have a stick version. And for me, it was, no, I'm not going to buy this expensive, fast car if it doesn't have a stick.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like I always, when I was learning, I learned stick, and I really liked driving manual, just that control. It was always great. And yeah, I really enjoyed it when I was learning to drive a car.
So what he didn't know is how responsive these cars are and how responsive this thing can be. But especially what he didn't know is that, but because he doesn't drive by, down gearing or anything like that, even when he drives a Jeep. And so I was explaining to him the fact that when you brake in a regular car, you lock the wheels, which means that you get oversteer and understeer and, and accidents and all of this stuff. But when you brake in an electric car, you're essentially slowing the motor down. And that is a huge difference. It makes a huge difference in the drive. Besides the obvious thing that is incredibly responsive and it can go really, really fast, really, really quick. So that control of the car was completely lost on him. He didn't know that was a thing. He didn't know that was a thing in electric cars in general. He just thought like, oh, that is for fancy people that are greenies and want to save the world or whatever, He didn't understand the huge control and the huge driving experience that you get from an electric car. So if this was something that more people would talk about, and I know that you and I have talked about the driving experience of an electric car, I reckon more people would actually go and pay for it. And, another example, just to interrupt.
Yeah, well, whenever I talk to people now, like a big thing that I say, like, they're like, oh, how's your car going and everything? And like, how was the drive to Melbourne, or how was this? And it's just like, well, for me, the big thing that especially when I jump in the petrol car, back in the old car, is the level of control I have in my EV of being able to accelerate and decelerate with my 1 foot, and the amount of control that I have and how smooth I can drive reacting to traffic, but also the silence, how quiet it is as well. So they're the two things. But yeah, that control in a car is so good.
I won't give you the silence though, because I like a motor. I do like a motor sound, and I do like. I miss the vibration. I do. I feel like there is I feel like the car is talking back to me with the sound, so I know what is happening, and I do miss that, like in a driving experience. But in the way that you manage the car, I think there's a massive lost opportunity with what people know. And I had another conversation with another person that was really against E.V.s. But he had never driven one. He had no idea. For him, he just kept, drinking the Fox News Kool-Aid of, EV is bad, they won't tow your boat or whatever. With absolutely no knowledge or never driving one or understanding how long it takes to charge or how long or any of the reasons, he was deeply against them. And that is what a lot of people are experiencing right now, just because they don't have the information. And one of the things that is really missing is the information of how well it drives. And I just wanted to say that. So if you want to send this to someone, just send them this clip so they know that it's a massive upgrade to whatever they are driving. 9 out of 10 cars, 99 out of 100 cars.
You've got performance, and you've also got the control or the handling.
Yeah. And especially, turning on corners and things like that, the fact that you can decelerate the motor without locking the wheels is a huge thing. Like we live in South Australia.
Would adding to that as well, having a low center of gravity too, having the battery down the bottom, that would help with grip.
Absolutely. It is a great car to drive, the Tesla, but that is not only from the Tesla, that is from a lot of electric cars. That's what the MG4 you told me about is like, it would take away that from me.
Yeah, it's still going to be better, but it's not necessarily going to be as good as it could be.
Yes.
So I guess that's a big thing, especially when Teslas were new or when electric cars were like becoming popular, was a big thing a lot of people would say is butts in seats. If you can get somebody in an electric car and show them what it's like, that overcomes a lot of all of that sort of
absolutely
stuff.
Yes.
And I think that's the key thing. Butts in seats, right?
Yes, that's correct. And I think that butts in seat is a fantastic phrase to finish this podcast here.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking of buying and you're still sitting on the fence and saying, get your butt in an electric car seat. And that's the best thing you can do. And that would actually, even if you don't like it, you may not like it. I've found people that they don't like the Tesla, at least because it's too responsive. And they're like, oh my God, I don't want to drive this. It's scary. It happens as well.
There could be another EV for you, though.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
Kieran, fantastic. Great. Anything to go?
That was it. Yeah, it was really good chatting to you today.
Yeah.
Really enjoy this EV chat.
Yeah. First of the EV chats. Many more to come. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.